Let's talk about malpractice, or let's use an easier word, cheating, because that's what malpractice is. It's just cheating. I'd like to talk about what cheating is, and more importantly, what are the consequences if a student gets caught cheating. First of all, some of you may be wondering why I am even bothering to talk about this. Of course you know what cheating is and you know you're not allowed to cheat. But here at SHEilds we have thousands of students from all over the world on every single continent, except maybe Antarctica. And we've learned that different cultures, different countries, different educational systems, they all have a different idea of what cheating is and what should be done about it. In fact, there are countries where people almost think it's a democratic right to cheat. And if a student from one of those countries came to do their practical assignment and did something that NEBOSH considered to be cheating, there might be consequences. So I think it's only fair that we explain what NEBOSH's stance on cheating is, so that everyone knows what can and can't be done. NEBOSH are a British awards body, so they have a very British attitude to this. Cheating is wrong. It's not permitted, full stop. In fact, NEBOSH and SHEilds are getting more and more intolerant of cheating. Now, to be perfectly clear, when a student submits their practical assignment, it's not NEBOSH who marks it, it's SHEilds. And if we suspect that a student has cheated, we will report that student and their assignment and send it to NEBOSH for further investigation. NEBOSH will look at the assignment, they will decide if cheating has taken place or not, and then they decide what happens with that assignment. For a very minor offence, the student's result might be voided, which basically means they don't get a result. They have to re-register for the next submission and pay the examination fees again. So basically, it's a waste of time and money. However, for most offences, there is usually a temporary ban, which means that the student is temporarily banned from taking any more NEBOSH examinations or submitting any more practical assignments on any NEBOSH course. And bans usually last between 6 months and 3 years. Most people studying a NEBOSH qualification are doing so because they either want to get a job in health and safety or they want to get a promotion, a better health and safety job. But if a student gets banned for 3 years, that might put a stop to their career altogether. They're not going to be able to get that promotion or that job because they can't get the qualification. Cheating can have very serious personal consequences. So why are we so very strict on cheating? Well, it's because of the nature of our profession and our industry. Most people doing NEBOSH qualifications are either managers with health and safety responsibilities or they're health and safety managers. So they are people who have got power and influence on health and safety standards within the organisation. They've got people's safety, their lives within their hands. And can you imagine the impact it would have if people cheated their way into those positions of responsibility? People who don't have the knowledge, the understanding or the skills to do that job properly. The decisions could be flawed, people could get hurt, people could get killed. So there's a moral duty to keep cheats out of the profession. And speaking as a health and safety professional, we're supposed to be people of integrity. And we don't want cheats in our industry. What is considered cheating? Well, obviously, copying from somebody else's assignment is cheating. And it is something we see quite regularly. Sometimes we have 3 or 4 students all copying from each other's reports, and it can get a little bit complicated, but it's very easy to see. And with time, we're able to see which parts of which report were copied from where. And it's important to note that if you allow someone to copy from your report, then that is also considered to be cheating, and both students get reported, and NEBOSH can't tell who copied from who, and to them it doesn't really matter. Both students are liable to get their results voided, or both students are liable to get banned. One of the most common ways of cheating at the practical assignment is copying information from the internet and trying to pass it off as your own work. When you submit your assignments, you have to sign a declaration, this one here. And the declaration says that the report is your own work, and it references the penalties that are laid out in NEBOSH's malpractice policy, which you can download from their website. When I say copying information from the internet and trying to pass it off as your own work, what do I mean? Well, we often see students who copy sentences, paragraphs, or even whole pages from various internet sources, and they put it in their report as if it was their own work. I'm talking about websites like the HSE, the Health and Safety Executive, or America's OSHA, or Wikipedia, or anything that you can find on Google. The problem is that this isn't the student's own work. This is somebody else's work. It's somebody else's words that the student is basically stealing and trying to use it as their own. Now, what is acceptable is to take something from the internet and to reference it, basically to say where you got that quote from. For example, if a student is writing about noise and they've done some research on the OSHA website about noise, they might have seen a sentence which says, "Noise is a major hazard within the construction industry." And they want to use that within their report. Well, that's fine, but they've got to say they got it from OSHA, the source. And it could be as simple as saying, according to OSHA, noise is a major hazard within the construction industry. That is a reference. They've been very clear about what it is they've copied and where they've copied it from, who the source is. But what is not acceptable is to take that from the OSHA website and not give credit to OSHA as the source. The sad reality is that we do sometimes see students who submit assignments that have basically just been cobbled together from various internet sources. And the result is a very, very poor report that is difficult to read, which always gets low marks, even if we didn't report it for malpractice. Internet guidance is usually a bit general and it's not very specific to the hazards that have been identified in the hazard observation sheets. The discussion in the report, it has to be relevant and specific to what's in the observation sheets. And anything that's irrelevant or not specific, maybe just a reciting of technical knowledge copied from websites, that's never going to get good marks. To summarise then what we've said about malpractice, don't copy from anybody else's practical assignment and do not let anybody copy from yours. Taking information from the internet and using it at your own is forbidden. It's considered stealing. And if you do want to take some information from the internet, make sure you reference it and say clearly what it is you've taken and where and who you got it from. If you are reported for malpractice and subsequently NEBOSH finds you guilty, then you are liable to suffer a serious penalty. At the very least, your result could be voided, and at the very most, you could be temporarily banned, anywhere from 6 months to 3 years. So basically, don't cheat. It's not worth it. Cheating will be a waste of time, a waste of money, and it can have profound impacts on your professional career and your life in general.